Well, finally, episode one after after a little while. That was I'll take the blame for it. That's all right. But yeah, we talked about a while back when we all met on Zoom about doing more, to increase the awareness of mental health. And one of the things that I wanted to do, and you guys as well, is do a podcast. And like I said before, I don't know really where it's going to go, but um, we just start. And yeah, we're starting a little later than I wanted to, but we'll go from there. So that's my whole goal for this, is just to increase the awareness of mental health. And not, and like I keep saying, I'm open to suggestions, and you guys are as well, too. So, oh, um, my name is Barry Wise. Forgot about that part, huh?
I agree.
I've been working as a firefighter since 2009. I've been a paramedic since 2007. So we're in 21 now. So whatever that adds up to, it's a little while. So I've been doing it for a little while, and went through, I guess we call it a rough patch. And we'll leave it at that for right now. And which ultimately led to where we're at right now. Whoever wants to go next.
I'll hit it. So my name's Adam Wilson. I have been a firefighter since 2006. And then I went through paramedic school and completed that in 2012. I think I jumped on this podcast because I kind of hit a rough patch similar to you, where it kind of hit home. And I think this is a good idea because there's probably plenty of other individuals like us that are either currently in those rough patches or have been through. And I think the biggest part I think I'm going to take away from this is, what if I've learned anything, is like building tribes will help you kind of get through a lot of those like rough patches. So I think this is one way to kind of reach out to other individuals and build that tribe up. So
Sounds good.
I guess that just leaves me, huh?
Yep. Next.
leave the best for last.
There you go.
My name is Gary Slade. I started the fire service as a volunteer in Colorado in 2009. Made my way down to Arizona, California, bounced around between a couple of departments before settling with Rural Metro. Been there 5 years. Got my medic and my hashtag right off the bat, and then promoted to captain. So it's been a busy 5 years. Just like you guys, I went through a rough patch, and one thing that, just to add on to what Adam was saying about building tribes, is that we all sometimes get in the motion that like, oh, I'm the only one going through this. No one else has ever done this, and it's just our mentality sometimes. But talking with Barry and Adam and some other individuals, and behavioral health it's real. It's not a taboo topic that we should like it was in the past. What you went through might be something that I'm going to or going through similarly, and it's good to know that I'm not alone. And I really enjoyed talking about this, and I think this is a great idea to not only, as Adam said, building our tribe. It's like those connections, like we aren't alone. We don't have to do it alone, and we aren't. There's a support system, there's group, there's people we could talk to that has insight. And I know talking to Barry and Adam a couple of times made me myself feel better. And just having that someone to lean on. It's some really powerful stuff.
Nice. All right. Like I talked to you guys earlier, this one will be just, the introduction podcast, and we'll just pick something and talk about it. So whoever wants to go first.
All right. So Barry, what do you do to help build resiliency, or have you done?
What have I?
Yeah.
Oh, you're asking me a question?
Yeah. I think it's
Uh,
important because I think like the broad people of in our group that we're trying to reach out to is maybe there isn't, maybe they don't know where to go, maybe they don't know what to do to help build that resiliency piece in our minds.
all right. Um, One thing that I'll stick with one. This it'll tie into my topic that I was going to discuss. Um, but you have to change your mindset. And I know that's a broad answer, but I can remember back um, when I was going through, let's say, rough patch, whatever you want to call it. Um, I The way I was feeling, I did feel like Gary was saying, even though I knew that other people felt this way, but I still felt that I was alone, that it's just me. And it's always that little voice in the back of your head was um, saying those things. So one of the big things that I did was um, I changed how I looked at things. And I don't know, the biggest example, which will tie it into what I was going to talk about, is I hated going to work. There was a point where I actually hated going to my current job. Um, Now, that feeling, if anybody has ever felt that feeling before, it's horrible. It sucks because you wake up and you got to go there. We work 48s. Oh, you do too, Adam. But so I got to be there for 48 hours, and I have this, before I even go to work, I have this feeling on the inside that I hate it. And I joked with my wife one time, and I talked to her about quitting. And I was partially serious, but also in the back of my head, I wasn't totally serious, I guess, because I knew there's a part of me that knew what was going on, but that wasn't the part that was in control, if that makes sense. So with that, um, I I started. Well, first of all, I went and I talked with a counselor, uh, and I've been listening to podcasts forever. I started listening to some podcasts again, and I started the self-talk, positive self-talk, and reframing how I look at going to work, how I felt about work, how a lot of the things that I thought were issues at work were really not personal towards me. You know, everybody else, they may, whatever they're going through, it's not always about me, and they're not there to make my life worse. Uh, so as I started little by little by little changing the way I looked at going to work, uh, I started to feel better. And then also there was something that I made a goal for myself in regards to work. I wanted to make it a better place than when, or how's that saying go? I want to leave it better than when I found it. Something like that.
That's right on
Um,
the money.
that's what my ultimate goal is now. Now, with all that being said, well, hold on, I'll address that in a second. with all that being said, it was a slow process. Um, and now I don't hate going to work, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have bad days. Um, and I think when I changed my mindset of that goal. Now I look at work as a positive challenge, and I go to work and I try um, to leave it better than it was. Now, with that being said, there's going to be days where that doesn't happen. I'm still, there's still days where I complain and, I'm not feeling up to par and I feel whatever it may be. So that's not going to be, or that's not how I feel every day, if that makes sense. So, so to sum all that up, for me, with the resiliency is really just changing your mindset. That would be one of the things um, that I did, changing my mindset, the positive self-talk, getting help, and having a goal that's bigger than me, I guess.
Purpose.
There you go. Okay, yeah, a purpose. So
What about you, Gary?
Um, I guess for me, along the line of changing your mindset is, I'm really big into talking about it. Talking about what's bothering you. You know, I got a big mouth. Obviously, you guys know me. I talk a lot, so I don't mind. I don't have an issue saying what's on my mind. So if there's something bothering me, I gotta first address like what about this particular issue or call or whatever it was, what is bothering me? And then you have to have, and I have to have that courageous conversation with myself as to like, why am I in this position? Or what's going on and why am I reacting this way? Where's my mind at? And I'll be completely honest, like right now I'm kind of losing track of my purpose. There's some things going on at work and all that I'm not too happy with. But in the end, I have to ask myself, is there anything I can do about it? No, yes or no. Okay, no, I can't do anything about it. So I can either just become salty and become a disgruntled employee, or I can just, accept it, or look at the positive, some type of positive outcome. What's the bright side of it? And change my mindset. As Barry said, it's not a fast change. It's a slow. Some days you're gonna have amazing days. You're gonna have bad days. And I think that's something that's really important about behavioral health is that it's not a quick fix. This is something that you have to keep on working on and fill your boat and, find your purpose. And sometimes we can't find our purpose or change our mindset and without talking about it. Why do I not like my job right now? Well, because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, maybe someone else has that issue and we talk about it and help each other figure out how we can address it, how we can move forward and change our mindset. So a big part for me is just talking about it. No secrets.
Right on. There's nothing wrong with that.
what about you?
I think you guys hit it like right on the head. I like to use, you talk about mindset. I like to think of like if it's a bad situation, like reframe the situation, right? Look at it from a different lens and actually kind of see the whole issue or changing that outlook, right? So I know for me, it was about four years ago, because you both kind of talk about losing purpose, right? Losing what that internal purpose is that you keep moving forward on. I had lost mine, man. I think I had a lot of external noise. I had a lot of what they call compounding interests on some of the outside noise, some of the internal trauma that we all kind of get from this career. And I just wasn't happy, man. And I had lost purpose. And it wasn't until for me to help build resiliency, I was able to kind of get internally quiet, and I was able to like rediscover that kind of purpose and what I wanted, right? And then, you know, kind of like what you both had said earlier is I felt like at the time that voice in that back of my head was telling me I was the only one that was kind of dealing with that. And it kind of just, it's like one of those things, right? Like you go on to podcasts, and I kind of like tripped along a podcast, and it was one of the big things was mental health. It was talking about like building resiliency, talking about like that emotional compound trauma that we get from the career, but also what we get prior to the career, right? Growing up. So kind of going through that, kind of going through a lot of big changes, kind of got me to where I'm at now, man. And making that agreement, like you said, Gary, is if it sticks out to me the most, like I read a book, and it's going to sound like, you know, probably like a hippie shit. Can we cuss in this thing? Are you going to allow us to cuss in this thing, Gary?
Why not, huh?
The book,
We'll take it as we go.
so like the book, The Four Agreements, right? The first one is like being impeccable with like your word, right? Speaking the truth. And I think like I didn't know, like I kept telling myself I was going to be okay. I'm okay. There's nothing bothering me. But at the end of the day, like when I read that agreement with myself, I wasn't okay, right? And like I had to start getting true to like what I was dealing with, and then kind of just branching out, and then just kind of building, you know, good friendships where like if I have a bad day, I think like Barry and I just talked about it. I think that 4th of July incident was a kid, man. And those, you know, if we don't have people we can talk to, kind of get some of that stuff like off of our chest and out of our brains and hear ourselves talk about it, it's going to stay in there, and it's going to get worse, right? And it's going to keep building and building and building. So I think that's how, in a long kind of end around explanation, I think that's how I kind of got to where I'm at now.
I think just adding on to that, if you guys don't mind, I think it's important that we emphasize that it's okay not to be okay with the situation. It's okay to feel certain ways. It's okay to have those feelings. And that's how we grow. That's how we mature. That's how we develop in our life and our career, is recognizing what we are okay with and what we're not okay with and talking about it. I feel like that's a big thing for this.
Yeah. One
For sure.
Along with that, like when I was listening to podcasts and reading, and you know, when you're running and you're working out, and you're gonna get to that point where it hurts and you're gonna want to quit. And one of the things it goes along with what you guys are saying is, you know, you're acknowledging, yeah, right now my legs hurt really bad. You know, they were saying, you know, acknowledge it and then just keep going. You know, yeah, you know, I'm doing these burpees and it's really hard to get up off the ground. Well, no shit, but just keep going. Now, with me, I'll be honest, one of the things is sometimes it's hard to it's easy to tell myself that when I'm doing the workouts, and then sometimes it's hard for me to transfer that over to I'll say a real life situation, whether, you know, my wife or at work. So I'm still a work in progress in doing that. And I guess an example would be, and this kind of goes with that podcast I sent you guys the other day. You know, you kind of have to, on the spot, take a step back, and sometimes it has to be quick because, you know, shit happens fast. So you have to take a step back and realize where this person is coming from, and, you know, what do you want to argue? what do you want from the situation? I don't want to argue. And when you take a step back, you need to kind of focus and realize where this situation or where this conversation is going with that person. And that's what I'm working on now, even more so with that podcast, or after I listened to that podcast. And I was
Which
just
podcast was that one? Was it the one that I had
finding your purpose.
that one? Yes,
Yeah.
I think like everybody should listen to that thing.
Yeah, that was good. So I'm able to better now to pull myself back and look at the big picture, especially at work. I'm way better able to do that. And an example would be management would say, they'll say something, whatever it is, and I don't like it. Um, I'm able to take a step back and try and look at the situation from their eyes and get a better understanding. And then that gives me, it makes me feel better, for one. Um, and then I can either argue for my side, or I can agree and go along with it, even though I don't agree with it, if that makes sense. Um, but the thing, like I said, it's, don't feel that if you are trying to do this, that we're talking about, it's a work in progress, and I'm still I'm still working on it, and mess it up many, many, many days. But I do, one thing I want to say is I do feel better overall, if that makes sense. I don't feel that hate towards anybody anymore, which all that stuff I just talked about plays a part in that. And I do try to look where they're coming from. Um, for the biggest reason is because it makes me feel better. And then it just makes the interaction more productive most of the time.
I think what they were referring to, right, is like, do you want to be happy? Do you want to go to war kind of thing? Do you want to be disgruntled? And it's kind of like
There you go. Better
settling,
explanation. Yeah.
it's like settling that kind of internal like feeling that you have before you have that interaction, and changing that mindset through planting good seeds in your brain.
Yes.
So tending to that garden kind of thing.
Yes. You explained it
So
better. Thank you.
you were on the right track. I was kind of at first I was a little confused at like which podcast you were talking about.
Oh,
And
okay.
so like you started talking about it. So that's why I'd asked about it. So your topic was about hating going to work.
Yep.
So I think you kind of hit on some of that, right? Like I guess it kind of goes back to that internal kind of to dialogue that we have with ourselves, is to like reframe that. Like, do you really hate going to work, or is it like a situation? Is it I don't know, a conflict? Like, I think I've had that. I think like you and I mean, anytime we're like struggling, whether it's doing burpees, rowing, dying on whatever machine or whatever workout or whatever hike, like we've talked about that one before, like where, like I hated it. And that's, unfortunately, I don't think like I was able to come to peace like you and maybe Gary have at staying like where you guys were at. And it took like a huge family change for me to finally get out of that. So I feel
And
it.
and that's okay. I wanted, now that you bring that up, thanks for bringing that up. That's okay. You have to decide, you know, if you're able to, we'll use me, to change your mindset and do what I did, and stay and be able to be positive and productive and all that stuff where you're at, that's okay. But if not, you need to, and if you need to make changes for the betterment of you, your family, and that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with parting ways.
I feel like that's very important. I feel like when it comes to behavioral health and your life, it's okay to be selfish in certain things. What at work is not making you happy? Is it just situational based? Is it something new? You know, and once you're able to calm that noise and take a step back and look at the big picture, is it in line with what I want for my life and my family? And that goes back to having those courageous conversations with yourself. And it's okay to make adjustments. I feel like a lot of people, especially in the career that we are in, they like, oh, it's my department or nothing. You know, oh, I can't switch departments because I'm already at X amount of years or X amount of level, or I'm captain already. No, I can't make changes. But nothing is ever set in stone. If it's to better yourself, your situation, your family, you know, or just for a better mental wellness, it's okay to make those changes. And I think that's a mindset we need to approach, is that change is okay. It's okay to go out into the unknown and uproot and go to a different department or move a different state or move careers entirely, you know? And I think that's something that we should make or normalize, is that taking care of yourself and doing what's best for you and your family is okay. You know, because at the end of the day, it's, you know, no one's gonna look out for you as much as you or your family. So it's okay to make those changes.
For sure. And I think at the time, right, like we talk about, like, my big thing, like the big book that probably made the most, like, hit home the hardest was like, and that made me realize that, was that book Tribe. I didn't know any of that. And if I would have known that, and I would have known probably some other things, maybe. But it took me leaving, right? Like, it took me leaving to find what refine what my purpose and try what my tribe was, and how to kind of quiet that noise. Because at the time it was, I'll be honest, like, I know for me, my struggle was like, it felt like it was that compounding interest kind of thing, where it wasn't, I don't know, per se, it was like everything had made noise and it wasn't just one specific spot. So, like, yeah, you bring up a good point, is like, sometimes you got to be selfish and do what's best for you and the people you love, you know.
I just feel
And
like that's it falls in line is with, do you really hate your job or the situation you are in, or is it just that? And it takes having those conversations and reaching out and talking about it to get you to that point. And I look at you, Adam, and Barry. You guys were both in situations. We've all been in situations, and you look back and you made the changes for the better.
yeah, unfortunately,
The one that has time limit.
there we go.
Yeah. So there.
Yeah, my AirPods keep going in and out, so if you see me messing
Did
around,
that
that's
too.
what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know what the heck is. It'll like kick me off
Mine do
after,
that
like,
too. Are you on a computer or phone?
I'm on my phone.
I have the Galaxy one, so I didn't have that issue.
Oh, well, excuse me.
With I wanted to say with the change, and we're experiencing a little bit of change at work right now, or in the process. Yeah, in the process of talking about it. But anyway, with change, it sucks no matter what. Even if you know you want to change, and you're trying to convince somebody else that you want to change, it's gonna suck. at first, and hopefully it works out for the better. But you just have to go into that situation and realize that all change is going to be, we won't use suck, but it's going to be uncomfortable at first. And you just have to expect that at first. And, hopefully that it works out for the better. But I think as long as we expect that it's going to be uncomfortable, I think it'll help the process. And that goes with anything, unfortunately.
Such as life.
Exactly.
But once we get to once we get used to that idea that yes, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's for the better.
Yes.
So, and that's once again, one thing that I really enjoy in this podcast and what we are doing is we bring up topics that every single person out there has either felt or will feel or are currently feeling in this life, and it's no longer, we're not hiding it. It's no longer like, hey, you do you, I'll do me. No, it's like it's us, and that's why I really appreciate what we're doing, hearing you and Adam talk, branching out, and we are talking about solid topics that everyone's going through or will go through, and it's okay, it's normal. You want to grow, these are expect changes.
Yeah.
And those changes are okay.
I think the biggest thing is like, and maybe it was, maybe we weren't taught it as kids, and maybe our parents didn't even know, but like true strength, if anything I've ever thought about, is being vulnerable, right? Like exposing that, like you're kind of like what you're saying, Gary, is like those tough conversations. I think like maybe society has kind of looked at maybe just men in general or anybody, right? For example, like to talk about stuff that is a hard subject. It's like, no, don't talk about that right now. It just kind of puts a stigma on you that makes you look like you're broken and makes you look like you're weak. And I think that is complete and utter, like, for lack of better terms, bullshit, right? Like, I think, like, look at the military, right? For a long time, like, they hadn't talked about it. They hadn't gotten counselors. And then, they were going through suicides, right? So I think, like, maybe it's that cultural society kind of, like, issue where, like, it's kind of, we've seen it as kids on the TV, on the radio, whatever it may be, right? And it's like, hey, we got to, like, knock that off. Like, true strength, I think, in any individual is being able to be completely okay with yourself, but being, like, vulnerable and, like, reaching out and saying, hey man, like, this is what's wrong. Like, kind of like just not kind of storing it internally. Because when you do that and you do that repetitively, especially like in our profession, where tomorrow one of us can go to work and have a drowning, one of us tomorrow can go to work and have a burn patient, right? Like, those compounding interests, eventually, like, the brain's not going to be able to handle that. I think we need to take that step back, like Barry was saying, is like, hey, let's self-reflect, let's reach out. And even if it's not going and talking to a counselor, but reaching out to, like, somebody in this group or a friend, I think is more helpful than just kind of letting that bottle store up, right?
Exactly.
I want to touch a little bit on that is, like I said, I'm big into talking about it. Since we've established at my department, since we've established the CISM team, we've been activated several times a week to go meet with individuals that had traumatic calls or calls that could potentially bother them. And I was having a conversation with the most senior guy, and he's like, "Hey man, like, I just want to say that I really appreciate this. You guys reaching out to us, talking about it, because back in the day, we didn't have this. It was like, hey, you leave your problems at home, you leave your work problems at work." And we all know that's not the case. They all transfer between each other. And he was very receiving and thankful for the fact that we are reaching out and talking about this stuff. And he did feel much better just talking about it. And he's like, hey, I didn't even know that affected me until I started talking about it. And now he feels better.
Good.
So I think that that generation switch, that change that we are making now, where it's like, hey, just suck it up, buttercup, like, no, that time is gone. It's no longer self-sustaining, it's not sustainable. And the way we are changing it, is by talking about it. And it's really having a positive impact on my coworkers and our departments. And I'm sure other departments that do the same could vouch for me and say the same thing.
Well, and I think like on that piece, right, is like when you go talk to somebody, it always takes that blind trust, right? Like if I have a problem and I come to you and be vulnerable, right? It's like I got to be able to trust you. And I think like that first step in building trust is kind of like peeling back those layers that we want to do to protect what we think we want to do and protect ourselves, and then kind of giving that grace or that blind trust to somebody to be like, hey man, I'm going to tell you some stuff, and I'm hoping that it stays kind of like within this area here. And whether it's any little thing, like, right, like, I think mental health isn't just like what we get exposed to on calls. I think it's like what we deal with in our day-to-day life. It's what we deal with like in our family life. Like you said, it's like you can't separate the two things, like our personal life and our career life. I think it's more blended than a lot of people realize.
Yeah. I'm gonna do or add one more thing, and then we'll wrap it up, because I don't know if it'll cut off on us or not. But I just want to say on the vulnerability, and that as well is difficult, and it's a work in progress. So don't expect yourself to be, if you're going to try it, or if you're already doing it, changing things, you're not going to get it on the first day, and we're not going to get it every day. We're going to struggle with that, just like anything else. So just don't give up on it, and keep pushing forward. I think that's we'll wrap it up right there for now, and prepare for episode 2.
Very successful podcast. I like it.
A lot of good stuff, guys. I kind of appreciate the talk, man.
Me too. And I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, sounds good.